Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to create an opener animation inside of Hitfilm Express. So let's take a look at the preview and get started. Alright, before we get started, if you don't want to create this entire animation, then you can check the link in the description. You can purchase this as a template. Everything is set up. All you have to do is just drag and drop the images and change the text, and you can export your animation. And also at the end of the video, I'm going to save this project file and share it with you guys. Obviously, there won't be extra scenes or extra slides. I'm going to show you how to create a single slide just to give you an idea of how this animation is created. Yeah, so you can check the project file as well. So yeah, let's get started. We are going to create a new composite shot, and first thing is first we're going to create a grid background. Create a bg_grid. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to give it a duration of 10 seconds. Click on OK. Then we're going to create a new plane layer, and I'm going to call this noise background and give it a black color. Click on OK. And on this layer, I'm going to apply a fractal noise effect. And I'm just going to animate the seed. So create a keyframe on the very first frame and go to the very end and set this to like 5 or 6. So if you play this, you'll have some kind of animation going on. And now I want to turn these into a box shape. So I can just apply a Mosaic Effect. And under Mosaic, we'll change the horizontal and the vertical blocks. So for the horizontal blocks, I'm going to go with 10. And for the vertical block, I'm going for 7. Right, so we have these blocks over here and you can see the animation going on. All right, let's go back to our fractal noise, and under appearance, we have exposure and offset. I'm just going to reduce the offset like so. And you have some kind of animation going on, and you can increase the exposure as well. So we have the white color in it as well, not just the gray and the black. All right, that is looking great. And now the next thing we are going to do is let me just increase the exposure a bit more and reduce the offset. I don't want too many boxes. I want them to be very little in number. So let's just play around with this and something like that. I think that is looking good. You can, come back to this fractal noise anytime that you want, and you can change these settings to get a different result. So let's go ahead and create a new plane layer, or we can just drag in this noise BG plane layer, put it at the top and rename this to grid. Okay, so let's search for grid effect and apply it on the layer. And for the grid, the first thing we'll do is reduce the border radius. I'm going to set this to 0.5. And with the on-screen controls over here, I'm just going to create more of these boxes like so. You can just take your time and position this properly. And yeah, that should be good enough. Then what we can do is it should be grid, not grod. Grid. And I can just duplicate this layer, and I'm just going to reset the grid on this. So right click on the grid effect, click on reset, and I'm going to go down to transform and set the rotation to 45 and scale to 200%. So I created this tutorial. This is like my 6th time creating this video, so I kind of remember the values now. So yeah, then we can just again select the grid, and if you want, you can create more of these boxes. Let's just create something like this and just play around with these on-screen controls. Right, so I'm happy with this, and I can just reduce the border radius to 0.5. That's looking great. All right, so let's be done with this, and I'm gonna create a new comp, and this will be our image/video placeholder, and I'm going to rename it to 01, as this will be our placeholder for our first image. since we're going to create more than one placeholder, so I'm going to rename it 01, 02, 03, and so on and so forth. So 01 for the first one, I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to drag and drop an image here. You can also drag and drop a video if you want. So let's use this image over here. Drag it onto the timeline, right click, transform, and click on fit to frame width, and it will just scale it for you. Or you can also do it in the scale, but I think that this is the quickest way to scale things down to fit the comp. Okay, let's close out of this as well. Let's close out of the BG grid. Right, let's create a new comp, and I'm going to call this image/video comp 01. I'm not good at naming things, so let's just go with that. The duration, I'm going to go with 10 seconds and click on OK. I'm going to place this placeholder comp inside this video comp. I'm going to use this word comp a lot of times as we are going to be creating a lot of composite shots, so just keep that in mind. So let's go to transform and create a simple scale animation on this. Create a keyframe at the beginning at 100%, go to the end and set this to maybe like 111. So we have a simple animation going on. And also you have to download light leaks footage. You can find these all over internet. So let me just find a light leak footage over here like so, and just drag and drop it, put it at the top, right click, blend, and set this to add so that we can see our image and the light leaks. Okay, cool. Now what we can do is let's create a new comp, and I'm going to call this transition. Again, 10-second long. Click on OK. Basically what we are going to do is we're going to create those strips in this comp. So let's create a new plane layer, and I'm going to call this strips. I'm going to set the height to 154. Click on OK. Let's give it a white color. Click on OK. Before we do anything else, let me just quickly animate this. So let's go to let's create a keyframe on opacity, set it to 0, create a keyframe on scale, unlink the chain so we can control the X and Y individually. I'm going to set the scale to 0, and I'm going to move forward to maybe around 2 seconds. Set the opacity back to 100 and the scale to 100 as well. So we have this kind of animation going on, and on the scale I'm going to select these two keyframes, convert the keyframes to manual Bezier, go in a value graph, hold the shift key and just drag this handle all the way to the left. So we'll have a much smoother animation. Now let's place this strip, and I'm going to just place it at the top. Make sure you zoom into this and be precise with the positioning. So let's move it to the top, and I'm just going to duplicate this, and you can just click on this number over here under position. It says 463. If you click on it, if you hold the control key on the keyboard and click on it, and this will change it to a negative 463. And then we'll just duplicate this strip again and just move it to the top. So let's just use the controls over here and just put it and make sure that there is no black line in between. I'm going to use negative 309. I'm going to duplicate this strip. We have strip 4, and just simply hold the control key and click on this value. So we have changed its position, and now it's at the top. Let's duplicate the shape one more time, and let's change the position, and we're going to bring it over here 155. I'm going to duplicate this strip and hold the control key and click on this value on position. So we invert the position, and let's duplicate it one last time. So we have our 7th strip over here. Let's set the position to 0 so that it's right in the middle. So if you click away, you can notice that there is this black line going through. So let's just fix that. We can go to our transform, scale, and on the Y scale, we're going to set this to 101 in both of these keyframes, 101. So now if you check out this animation, there won't be any black line going through. Right, good. So this is our transition. So let's stagger these layers. So I'm going to select these two layers, 6 and 5. I'm going to move them forward in time. Let's move forward by about 5 frames. Select 4 and 3 and move it forward by about 10 frames. Select the last two and move it forward by about 15 frames. So now if you take a look at your animation, this is our transition. So let's create a new comp, and I'm going to call this animation. Again, 10 seconds, 1920, 1080, 30 fps. Let's bring in our image slash video comp 01. Make sure you bring the comp 1 and not the placeholder one. So bring the comp 01 onto the timeline and bring your transition comp to the timeline in our animation comp. So what I want to do is I want this image to appear only inside this transition. Okay, so for that, what we have to do is we have to use the set matte effect. So search for set matte and apply it onto your image video comp 01 layer like so. And under set matte, I'm going to set the source layer to transition, set the blend to subtract, and click on the invert option. So now you can see your picture only inside the transition. Now you can hide the transition layer. We don't want that to be visible. Check it out. So you have this image right inside the transition itself. All right, now we can apply effect to this on this comp. The first one will be blur. So apply the blur effect, and let's check out what happened. So you can notice that we have applied the blur effect, but we also lose the sharpness in our transition strip over here. So if I just turn off the blur, you can see it's quite sharp over here. But as soon as I apply the blur, we lose that sharpness. So what we can do in order to fix that is simply move this blur and put it on top of the set matte effect. And you can see the blur is still applied and we have the sharp strips over here. Okay. Cool. Now the next thing we'll do is apply tint, apply it on the same comp. Let's change the color on map white to, I'm going to set this to kind of gray, click on OK. Okay, that is looking good. Now we can just duplicate this, Control D to duplicate, and I'm going to go to the second layer or the second comp over here, go to effects, and I'm just going to delete the blur, just delete it. And in the set matte, just make sure we set the source layer to the right transition layer. So right now it's referencing our transition, which is at the third layer, this one over here, but we want to reference it with this layer, which is at the top of this comp. Okay, so let's select the source layer, the proper source layer, which is transition 2 in our case. And I'm just going to move these two layers forward in time. So maybe let's go for 10 frames. So we have this nice opening animation. You can see we have the blur going on, and then after that we have the picture without the blur. And that's basically what we have done by duplicating and removing the blur effect from the second comp. Now we are going to use our BG grid over here. Let's drag and drop it, put it at the top, and I'm going to set the blend to add on this so we can see the picture. And now we're gonna use the transition on this as well. Let's hide the transition, and I'm gonna quickly steal the set matte effect from the comp over here and put it on the BG comp. So Control C and Control V to paste the effect, and set the source layer so you can see the transition on top. It's called transition and at layer 1, so I can just select that layer like so, and rest all the settings should be fine. So if we now play this, you can see you have the grid animation as well. I think I can reduce the opacity on the blocks over here. So I can go to the grid comp, noise BG, and let's reduce the opacity and set this to, I guess, 40%. And let's go back to our animation comp. Check that out. That is looking much better. And also I'm going to go to PG grid and reduce the opacity on the grids. So set this to 50% on both of these like that, and go back to your animation. You can see now it is looking subtle and really improves our overall animation. So I'm going to create one more comp, and this will be our scene 01. And I'm going to bring in my animation, which should be renamed to animation 01. Let's bring that inside this scene 1 comp. And here we can just place our text. So let's type in some text over here and change the font increase the size and customize the look of the font like so. And I can go to layout and align this in the center. I can apply gradient to this. So if I search for color gradient, apply it onto the text, and I'm going to change the blend and set this to none, change the opacity to 100%, and I can bring the black color over here and the white at the top like so. And maybe I can just bring it down a little. So I think that is looking much better now. And also you can see that text is kind of already visible from the very beginning, so I can do the same thing with the text. I'm going to apply the same transition effect to this. So our transition comp reveals our text. So let's hide this and apply the set matte effect onto our text and expand the set matte, set the source layer to transition, set the blend to subtract, and click on the invert option so that we can see our text. If we now play this animation, you can see that our transition comp will reveal the text. Right, so you can apply effects to your text as well, such as opacity, just fade in and fade out. And I'm just going to simply add in a scale animation on this. So create a keyframe on scale, go to the end and set this to like 113, and we'll have a simple scale animation on this. Right, that is looking good. Now let's close out of this, close out of all these comps, and I'm just going to create another comp, and this will be our final. And for the duration, let's go with 30 seconds since we won't be using only one scene in this, we'll be using multiple scenes. So let's increase the duration a little, click on OK, and I'm going to drag in my first scene inside this comp. Right, so we are done creating our first scene. Now we have to create scene 2. So you don't have to do all the steps again for scene 2. All you have to do is create multiple composite shots. So for example, we have animation 01 over here, we have to create animation 02, and same with video comp over here as well. We have 01, we have to create 02 for this as well. And you have to do this for other slides as well. If you have third image, you use 03. If you have fourth image, you use comp 04, placeholder 04, like that. So let me just show you one more slide how we can do this. So if I just go to, first of all, we need another scene, right? So find scene 01, duplicate it, and rename this to scene 02. And I'm just going to double click on this, and inside it has animation 01 comp. So we'll find animation 01, we'll duplicate that, and this will be animation 02. Let's bring that in and replace it with animation 01. Again, delete this. Let's double click on animation 02, and in this we have image/video comp 01. So we'll find that comp, which is right here. We will duplicate it and rename this to comp 02. We just replace it with this one, and here we just need to copy the effects. So you can see that in our previous comp we have these three effects applied: blur, set matte, and tint. So we'll just right click on copy, and right click on the new comp that we just made. So right click on paste attributes, and we'll paste all the three effects. Click on paste, and now we can delete the previous layer, which is comp 1. All right, that is looking good. So just make sure that in your effects under set matte we have the correct source layer set to transition 5, which it is. And we do the same thing with this comp over here as well. So just drag in, or you can just delete these two layers, and you can just duplicate these two and move them forward about 10 frames like so. And all we have to do is delete the blur from here. For the grid, we can just leave it as it is. We don't have to do anything in that layer. Okay, so let's see if everything is working properly. I think we have some problem over here. So let's see. Okay, so under image, the new duplicated layer, you can see the transition, the source layer under set matte is set to transition 5, which is this layer. We need to change that to transition 2, which is at layer 3, this one. And now you will be able to see your animation working properly. So you can see the blur before and the image without the blur. Good. So now we can double click on this comp. We have another comp inside, which is image/video placeholder, and we'll duplicate, find this in the media panel over here, image video placeholder one, duplicate it and rename it to placeholder 2. Drag and drop it, and we'll just copy and paste the attributes on the new layer. Paste, and we can just delete the previous one, and we have the same animation on this. And now inside you can double click on it and simply change the picture. So let's actually use this one and just drag and drop, right click, transform, fit to frame width, and we can delete the previous image. So there you go. If you check out your scene 2 over here, we have the new scene 2 with the new image. For the text, you can select it and change it with anything else. Should be pretty easy. So there you go, you have created the scene 2. So after you successfully created your scene 2, we can go to our final comp, go to 3 second in time, and we can bring in our scene 2 and put it at the top. Make sure it starts at the 3 second mark. So if you play this, we have our transition into scene 2. That is basically it. That's how you can create your slideshow or your intro or whatever you want to call it. And now you have to do the same thing for scene 3, scene 4, and scene 5. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. I hope this video is helpful. Hope you learned something new. This process does take some time. As I said, you don't want to create all of this, you can find the download link to the template in the description, where you just have to drag and drop it to your timeline, change the text, and everything will be set up already. Yeah, if not, then you can just go ahead and I'll just whatever we have done so far, I'm gonna create a project file of it and I can share it with you. The link will be in the description as well, so you can download it and you can continue from here, just create more scenes. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.